and welcome to today's video. My name is Meredith and this is a channel about living life with and beyond a chronic illness. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw a post that I made called 5 Things About the Disabled Experience That You Might Not Know. And a lot of you seem to like that post, more so than anything else I've ever posted ever. So I decided to do a deeper dive into some of the issues that I discussed in that post. But before we jump into that, I do just want to say thank you for the not 1, but 2 WeGO Health Patient Leader Award nominations. I've been nominated for Best Kept Secret, and Dysfunctioning Just Fine has been nominated in the YouTube category. I'm so excited and so grateful to whoever nominated me, and just really appreciate the support and the recognition. With that being said, right now is the endorsement phase of the awards, and so I will leave a link down below. If you love this YouTube channel or think I'm the best kept secret on the internet, or you just want to support me in my advocacy work, it would mean the world to me if you could support that dream of mine by endorsing my nominations. So enough yakking for me, let's jump right into the video. 5 things about the disabled experience that you might not know. Now, when I was making this thread, I would say that I have like a substantial following, but I don't, I'm no celebrity, I'm no influencer, nothing of the sort. I'm an actress, but I'm not famous. Just to give you a little context of, how many eyes I thought were going to be looking at this. And with more eyes, being on it, it has illuminated some things that I think wouldn't have been illuminated had there not been as many eyes on it. So that's great. And I do just want to address that all of the things within this Instagram thread are all very complex, nuanced issues. And, I was trying to condense these complex, nuanced issues into these bite-sized, Instagrammable chunks, right? And so in doing so, I think that the thread can come off a little bit as black and white, but these issues, for the most part, are far from black and white, and there's a lot that goes into them. So I just wanted to say that, these are very complex, nuanced issues, and it wasn't my intention to make them come off as very black and white issues, because they're not. So with all of that being said, let's dive into some of these slides. Disabled people don't have marriage equality. They often can't get married because it would cause a major decrease or termination of their benefits. So clarification, when I say often, I am by no means trying to imply all. There are definitely people who have disabilities who can get married, and they do get married. There are plenty of happily married disabled people in the world. But what I am trying to address with this slide in particular, that there are many instances in which people with disabilities are discouraged from getting married because it would cause a decrease or termination of certain types of disability benefits. So let me give you a few examples of what I mean by that. So this is from the Social Security website. If you receive SSDI benefits under an eligible parent's record, getting married will cause your benefits to be terminated. The only time benefits will not be terminated in this circumstance is if you are marrying another disabled adult child. Another example, if you are currently receiving SSDI benefits on the work record of an ex-spouse, your benefits will be terminated if you remarry. This also applies to individuals who receive SSDI on the record of a deceased ex-spouse who remarry before age 50 if disabled and before age 60 if not disabled. But it is important to note that if you are receiving SSDI on your own earnings, getting married will have no impact on your benefits. There are other instances in which your benefits might decrease, especially if you're on SSI. So with SSI, there is a monthly cap for how much a disabled person can get per month. And so it's very state by state, but essentially let's just say that like the cap was $700, right? And so as a disabled person, you could get SSI, you could get a $700 check every month. And then if you were to get married, the SSI payment might be something like $1,200, right? And so when you divide 1,200 by 2, it's $600 each. So you're better off, you're getting an extra $100 a month if you stay unmarried. So your benefits will decrease by $100 every month if you get married. I've linked some sources down below that can explain that scenario a little bit more, and other ways in which benefits can decrease and increase. It's always good to do your own research on these type of things because a lot of them are very case by case basis. So if you're someone who's in a situation, or you're disabled and you're thinking, oh my God, I can never get married, I wouldn't fret just yet. I look into your specific situation and go from there. And that goes for a lot of the things in this video. So moving on to number 2. Disabled people are legally allowed to be paid less than minimum wage if they can't perform a job as well as an able-bodied person. All right, so according to the Department of Labor website, Section 14C of the FLSA authorizes employers, after receiving a certificate from the Wage and Hour Division, to pay subminimum wages less than the federal minimum wage, to workers who have disabilities for the work being performed. So it's that part of it is pretty black or white. I saw a lot of people in the comments debating whether or not people with disabilities can be as productive as able-bodied people. And to me, it's not as much of an issue of, is this person as productive as the next person? I think it's the fact that this standard of productivity, and a lot of times when these sort of laws are going into place, or these practices are going into place, disabled individuals are held to a productivity quota and they are paid based off of their productivity. And that standard is never held to any able-bodied person. So I just think that the fact that that standard is held to our community and not to the able-bodied community is where I think the issue lies. And I think also something to consider is that disabled individuals all have their own unique set of skills, and it is possible to find work within your skill set. So, I think the argument of whether or not disabled people are productive or not really depends on the situation. It depends on the disability. It depends on the job. For example, I myself am an actress, and I have a disability called POTS. And every night I put out the same product as every other person in my cast. The only difference is I do it sitting and dealing with being dizzy for a percentage of it. So at the end of the day, I'm putting out the same product, but that's my experience. And that's not to say there aren't other experiences that might be different. So with that being said, let's move on to the third slide. Disabled people must regularly navigate a world that wasn't built for us. Only buildings built after 1990 or with renovations that exceed 20% of a building's value must comply with ADA. All other buildings are grandfathered in. So clarification, just on that 20% thing, I am referring to a single project with that 20%. However, I'll be completely honest and tell you that I don't have a source for this one. And let me give you like a little bit of backstory. So I was told this information by an ADA consultant while working on a campaign that I founded in college called What the FAC, FAC standing for Fine Arts Center. It was a student coalition that campaigned for UMass's fine arts facilities to be safe, conducive to learning, accessible, integrative, and reflective of the caliber of UMass. And during that time, I had countless walkthroughs with ADA consultants. I met with the Dean of Humanities and Fine Arts, amongst other, building, contracting, higher up individuals. And they all had told me that in one way, shape, or form. And I was seeing it. Or what looked like it to me at the time. I watched my school completely overhaul our football stadium for our newly D1 football team. And I watched them not attach this like building that had training facilities and like a little watch area for the football stadium that was just mere feet away from the stands, and failed to attach it, which would have given elevator access to the home side of the stadium. And I found out that the reason they did that was to avoid having to have the cost of making the entire stadium accessible. So that to me was like a prime example of everything I had been told. So, everything was lining up. But I have since learned that things being legacied in is a myth. It is a complete myth, and I will go on the record right now and say I was totally wrong. Did you hear me? I was totally wrong, all right? And, I've been given new information, and I think it's important, especially in this time, that we acknowledge that we are all learning and growing, and sometimes we get it wrong, and I'm sorry that I spread false information, and we can move on now. But yeah, so the notion that some buildings are legacied in to ADA is completely false. It is a misconception that I, falsely believed. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe the people giving me that information were misinformed. Maybe they were purposely telling me this misinformation to try to quell like my student activism. I'm not really sure, but at the end of the day, it's not true. And while it is true that all-encompassing renovations happening immediately just aren't feasible, and it's not illegal to not do it all like in one sitting, in one project, all at once, there is an ongoing obligation to remove barriers. And by remove barriers, we mean making buildings more accessible. So this is a very complex, nuanced issue that I might even make a whole another video about, but essentially, within reason, within budget constraints, within the ability of a building and whatnot, buildings have an obligation to make their buildings as accessible as they feasibly can in this moment. And if they can't right now, they need to be making plans and budgeting for making buildings more accessible in the future. So I have linked a lot of information about this topic in particular in the document with all the sources. So if you want to learn some more about that, there is stuff like that there. There are certain examples of times where a building can't be made physically more accessible. So a historic building, for example, and in those cases, what might happen is something like someone doing a 3D filming of the areas that can't be accessed physically in person. So just an example. And special thanks to AL, who really helped me understand all of this. Disabled people in the US who have Medicaid are not allowed to have more than $2,000 in money and assets combined, or else they become ineligible for their health insurance. So, another clarification. When I'm talking about people on Medicaid, I'm referring to people who are on Medicaid and Medicaid alone. So there are also other types of plans that combine your Medicare and your Medicaid coverage into one and streamline your care. I'm not referring to those in this slide. Those have their own separate guidelines and rules and limits, and if you're on one of those kind of plans, you can totally Google that, but for now I'm just going to stick to talking about Medicaid and Medicaid on its own. So this $2,000 money and assets limit is also known as a resource limit, and this resource limit is the rule. And like many rules out there, there are exceptions to the rule. And I would say that this rule in particular has a lot of exceptions. And a lot of exceptions that, from talking to other disabled individuals, I've come to realize that there are exceptions that disabled people are not being made aware of in a lot of cases. And I can't speak for everyone, I'm just speaking from my own experience. But I think in many cases, these resources are not things that are common knowledge to disabled people, even though they should be. So some of the exceptions, I'm going to read you from the Social Security website. Some things that don't count towards the resource limit are the home that you live in and the land that it's on, one vehicle if you or a member of your household use it for transportation, household goods and personal effects, so that's something like an engagement ring or a wedding band, life insurance policies you own with a combined face value of $1,500 or less, burial plots or spaces for you and your immediate family, burial funds up to $1,500 each for you and your spouse's burial expenses, property you or your spouse use in a trade or business or on your job if you work for someone else. If you are disabled or blind, money or property you have set aside under a plan to achieve self-support, PASS. So the PASS program is essentially if you are trying to start a business or something like that, and working is your goal and you're taking steps towards a goal or starting a business, things like training, things like equipment, transportation, childcare, assistive technology that would allow you to do this job are all things that can be saved for with this special type of account, essentially. There is also another type of account that I recently became made aware of, and when asking other disabled individuals, they were not aware of this as well. And not to say that there aren't disabled individuals who aren't aware of this. There are probably lots. The last exception is up to $100,000 of funds in an Achieving a Better Life Experience ABLE account established through a state ABLE program. So as you can see, there are a lot of different types of exceptions. And with these exceptions, a lot of them are pretty difficult to save up for if you are not eligible for a PASS or ABLE account, which many people are eligible for these, but there are still individuals who are not eligible for these. So those are going to be the people who are the most affected by this resource limit. I've attached some more resources and links about these types of exceptions and the stuff from the Social Security website down below. I feel like I've said that 10,000 times, but you know, check out the doc that I made. I worked like all day, one day on it, so please like take a look at it for me. And then our last one is 5. Disabled people make up the world's largest minority group, currently around 10% of the world's population. So I have seen various numbers as far as the exact percentage. I've seen anywhere from between 10 and 20%. So it's probably, it's probably like 15%. But in saying that it's the largest minority, I'd rather lowball it than highball it with my statistics. So that's why I gave 10%. But anyone who is out there saying that it was 15, 20%, I've also seen sources saying that as well. So just wanted to clarify that. Although I do want to just like give a quick shout out to someone in the comments section on Instagram who really made a good point. They said, well, what is, a minority in the context of the world? And to be honest, like, I don't know. I think, because you think of something, for example, like Black people are a minority in the US, but in the context of the world, they're not exactly a minority. So what are minorities in the context of the world? And I really couldn't answer this question. The reason I stated it in that fashion is just because next to the statistic that I was finding on multiple websites, that was generally just kind of like the bookend on it, like, on either end of it was saying, we're the largest minority, we make up 10% of the world's population. We make up 15% of the world's population, we're the world's largest minority. I'm not exactly sure where world's largest minority is coming from, but it's on the World Health Organization website. It is on the CDC website, things like that. So that's where I got that information. Point being, no matter what the statistic is, no matter what a minority is in the sense of the entire world, the point I was trying to make with that slide and with this entire thread is that there are lots of disabled people in the world. We exist, we live out beautiful lives, we are all around you, living out life day to day, yet so many of these rights and inequalities we're still having to fight for and deal with on a daily basis as well. And you would think with as many disabled people as there are in the world, it wouldn't be something that would still be an issue. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and diving a little deeper into some of these topics. If you are new here and you're coming from Instagram, welcome to Dysfunction Just Fine, and I hope that you like this video and definitely subscribe if you enjoyed it, and if you think that maybe I'm the best kept secret on the internet or you like this YouTube channel enough, maybe you could go into the link and endorse my nomination for the WeGO Health Patient Choice Awards. I would really love that. And I don't think I mentioned this, but there is some money in it for my advocacy work if I do win. So I would really appreciate the endorsement on my nomination. So I hope that you have a great day. I hope that you learned something from this video. If you did, feel free to share it with a friend. I would love that. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.